The clock on the wall showed 2:15 a.m. when the bell above the door rang. Lisa Turner looked up from wiping down tables at Danny's diner, expecting to see another trucker looking for coffee and pie. Instead, a man in dirty clothes walked in, carrying only a small backpack. Lisa had worked the night shift for 2 years. She knew every regular customer and could spot trouble from across the room. This man was different. His clothes were wrinkled and stained, but his face was clean. His shoes were expensive, though covered in dust. He moved like someone who was tired but not defeated. "Sit anywhere you like," Lisa called out, grabbing a coffee pot and menu. The man chose a corner booth away from the windows. He sat with his back to the wall, eyes scanning the empty diner. Lisa walked over with a warm smile, the same one she gave every customer regardless of how they looked or how much money they might spend. "Coffee?" she asked, already turning over the white cup on the table. "Please." "Black." His voice was rough, like he had been walking in the desert for hours. Lisa poured the coffee and set down a menu. "Kitchen's open all night, take your time." The man opened the menu and studied it carefully. Lisa noticed his hands. They were clean, with short nails and no calluses, not the hands of someone who did hard labor, despite his appearance. "What's good here?" he asked. "Everything's decent. The grilled cheese is popular with folks on a budget. Comes with chips and a pickle for $4. He closed the menu. "That sounds perfect." Lisa wrote down the order and headed to the kitchen. Through the pass-through window, she watched the stranger. He sat quietly, sipping his coffee and looking out at the empty parking lot. Most customers played with their phones or talked loudly. This one just sat and thought. The cook, an older man named Pete, slid the sandwich across the counter. "New customer?" "Yeah. Seems nice enough." Lisa carried the plate to the corner booth. The man looked up as she approached, and she saw his eyes, clearly for the first time. They were intelligent and kind, but tired in a way that went deeper than just needing sleep. "Here you go. Can I get you anything else?" "This is perfect. Thank you." He picked up the sandwich and took a bite. "It's been a long time since I had a simple grilled cheese." Something in his voice made Lisa pause. "You traveling far?" "Farther than I planned." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Sometimes life takes you places you never expected to go. Lisa understood that feeling. 2 years ago, she had been studying at the community college, planning to transfer to a 4-year school. Then, her parents died in a car accident, leaving her to care for her younger brother Jake and their grandmother. College became a dream she couldn't afford. "I know what you mean," she said. The man took another bite of his sandwich. "You work here. Long?" 2 years. Night shift pays a little better, and I can take care of my family during the day." "Family's important." He sipped his coffee. "What do you do when you're not here?" Lisa hesitated. Most customers didn't ask personal questions, and she had learned to keep her problems to herself. But something about this stranger made her want to talk. "I take care of my little brother and grandmother. Jake's got some health problems, so he needs a lot of attention." The man nodded slowly. "That's a lot of responsibility for someone your age." "I'm 23. Old enough to handle it." "Age isn't always about years," he said quietly. "Some people grow up fast when they have to." Lisa felt a strange connection to this tired stranger. He understood things that most people her age didn't. She refilled his coffee cup without being asked. "What about you? What do you do?" The man was quiet for a moment. "I solve problems. Big ones usually. But tonight I'm just a guy who needed a good meal and found it." They talked for another 20 minutes while he finished his food. He asked about her dreams, her plans, her hopes for Jake's future. Lisa found herself sharing things she rarely told anyone. The stranger listened without judgment, nodding at the right moments and asking thoughtful questions. When he finished eating, he left a $5 tip on a $4 meal. Not huge, but generous for someone who looked like he was down on his luck. "Thank you for the food and the conversation," he said, standing up. "It's rare to meet someone who treats strangers with real kindness." "Thank you for the tip. Drive safe." The man paused at the door. "What's your name?" "Lisa. Lisa Turner." "Nice to meet you, Lisa." Take care of yourself." He walked out into the dark parking lot and disappeared into the shadows. Lisa watched through the window, but she couldn't see which direction he went. It was like he had simply vanished. She cleared his table, pocketing the tip money. Every dollar mattered when Jake needed his medicine and grandmother needed her pills. The stranger's words stayed with her for the rest of her shift. He had called her kind, but she was just doing her job. Everyone deserved to be treated with respect, regardless of how much money they had or what they looked like. Lisa had no idea that the man walking away in the darkness was Alex Kane, owner of one of the largest companies in the world. She didn't know that his private aircraft had made an emergency landing 50 miles away, or that his security team was searching for him at that very moment. All she knew was that she had met someone who understood struggle and still believed in the goodness of people. In a world that often felt cold and unfair, that meant everything. The clock struck 3 a.m. as Lisa went back to wiping tables, humming softly to herself and thinking about the kind stranger who had brightened her long night. 3 days later, the bell rang again at 1:45 a.m. Lisa looked up from counting the register and smiled. The same man walked in, still wearing simple clothes but looking less tired than before. He had cleaned up since their first meeting, and his backpack was gone. "Back for more grilled cheese?" Lisa asked, already reaching for the coffee pot. "If it's not too much trouble." He sat in the same corner booth, hands folded on the table. Lisa poured his coffee and noticed his watch. It was plain silver, but something about it seemed expensive. She pushed the thought away. It wasn't her business what customers owned or where they came from. "Same order as last time?" "Actually, I'll try the burger tonight, and maybe some of those fries I saw other customers enjoying." Lisa wrote down the order. "Coming right up." While Pete cooked, Lisa found herself glancing at the corner booth. The man sat quietly, occasionally checking his phone. She noticed he held it carefully, like it was important. When she brought his food, he put the phone away immediately. "Busy night?" he asked. "Not really. Tuesday nights are usually quiet." Lisa refilled his coffee. "How about you? Still solving those big problems?" He smiled. "Something like that. I've been thinking about what you said the other night, about taking care of your family." "What about it?" "Not many people your age would give up their dreams for others. Most would find a way to put themselves first." Lisa shrugged. "Jake didn't ask to be sick. Grandma didn't ask to get old. They need help, so I help them. It's not complicated. It's not common either." He took a bite of his burger. "What were you studying before?" "Community college. Basic courses, nothing special. I wanted to transfer to a 4-year school maybe, study engineering or computer science, but that's expensive and Jake's medical bills eat up most of what I make." The man nodded slowly. "What kind of engineering?" "Aerospace, maybe. I used to watch the space launches on TV when I was little. Always thought it would be amazing to help build things that could travel to other planets." "Space travel interests you? Doesn't it interest everyone? The idea that there might be other worlds out there, other kinds of people. Sometimes I look up at the stars and wonder what's really out there." The man's eyes lit up. "What do you think we'd find?" Lisa laughed. "Probably nothing like the movies. If there are aliens out there, they're probably just trying to figure out life like we are. Maybe they have their own problems, their own families to take care of. You think they'd be friendly?" "I hope so. Seems like there's enough conflict down here already. Would be nice if space was different." They talked for an hour while he ate. He asked about Jake's condition, about her grandmother's health, about her hopes for the future. Lisa found herself sharing more than she usually did with customers. Something about this man made her feel like her thoughts mattered. "I should let you get back to work," he said finally, leaving another generous tip. "Thanks. Will I see you again?" "Probably. I seem to end up here when I need to think." Over the next 2 weeks, he came in 4 more times, always during Lisa's shift, always ordering something different, always leaving exact change plus a good tip. They talked about everything from science fiction movies to current events to philosophy. Lisa looked forward to these conversations, more than she wanted to admit. The stranger never told her his name and she never asked. He seemed to need the anonymity, and she respected that. Everyone had their reasons for keeping secrets. On his 6th visit, Lisa's phone buzzed during their conversation. She glanced at the screen and her face went pale. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Just family stuff. Nothing I can't handle." But her voice shook and she couldn't hide the worry in her eyes. Her phone buzzed again. Then again. "Lisa, if you need to take that." She looked at the messages and felt her world tilt. Jake was in the emergency room. His condition had gotten worse. The doctors wanted to run expensive tests that their insurance might not cover. "I'm sorry," she said, standing up quickly. "I need to make some calls." She walked to the back of the diner, hands shaking as she dialed the hospital. The man in the corner booth watched her pace back and forth, her voice getting more desperate with each call. "We don't have that kind of money," she said into the phone. "There has to be another option." The man couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but he could see Lisa's face. The same woman who had shown him kindness when he was at his lowest was now facing her own crisis. He watched her call what must have been every bank and lending company in the phone book, begging for loans she probably wouldn't qualify for. When she finally came back to his table, her eyes were red but dry. She was too proud to cry in front of a customer. "Sorry about that. Can I get you anything else?" "What's wrong with your brother?" Lisa hesitated. "It's complicated. He was born with some problems. Usually we can manage with regular treatments, but sometimes things get worse." "How much worse?" "The doctors think they can help him, but the treatment is expensive, more than we can afford." The man finished his coffee and stood up. "I hope everything works out." "Thanks." "Me too." He left his usual tip and walked toward the yawn door. At the last moment he turned back. "Lisa?" "Yeah?" "Sometimes help comes from places you don't expect. Keep hoping." He left her standing there wondering what he meant. She had no idea that the man walking away into the darkness was already making phone calls of his own. She didn't know that before the sun rose her entire life was about to change. All she knew was that Jake needed help, and she would do whatever it took to get it for him, even if it meant working extra shifts, taking out loans she couldn't afford, or selling everything she owned. The stranger had been right about one thing. Sometimes life took you places you never expected to go. Lisa just hoped this journey would lead somewhere good. Lisa's phone rang at 7 in the morning. She had just gotten home from her shift and was about to check on Jake when the unknown number appeared on her screen. "Hello? Is this Lisa Turner?" The voice was professional, female. "Yes. Who is this?" "I'm calling from Phoenix Children's Hospital Billing Department. We have some good news about your brother Jake's account." Lisa sat down hard on her grandmother's old couch. Good news from hospital billing departments was rare. What kind of good news? An anonymous donor has paid for all of Jake's current medical expenses and approved funding for the advanced treatment program the doctors recommended. The full amount. Lisa's mouth went dry. How much was the full amount? $2.4 million. The phone slipped from Lisa's hand and clattered onto the floor. She picked it up with shaking fingers. "I'm sorry, can you repeat that?" $2.4 million. All medical expenses covered, including treatments that weren't covered by your insurance. The donor has also established a trust fund for any future medical needs Jake might have. Lisa couldn't speak. Jake's medical bills had been keeping her awake at night for months. The new treatment the doctors wanted would have cost more than she could make in 10 years. Who was the donor? "I'm sorry, but they requested to remain anonymous. All I can tell you is that the payment went through this morning, and Jake can start his treatment immediately." After hanging up, Lisa sat in stunned silence. She looked around their small apartment, at the stack of unpaid bills on the kitchen table, at the medical equipment in Jake's room. Someone had just changed their entire lives, and she had no idea who. Her grandmother shuffled out of her bedroom in her robe and slippers. "Who was on the phone, dear?" "Grandma, sit down. I have something to tell you." Meanwhile, across the city, Alex Kane sat in his office on the 40th floor of Kane Industries headquarters. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows he could see the entire Phoenix Valley spread out below. His assistant had just confirmed that the payment to the hospital had gone through. "Sir, the board meeting starts in 10 minutes, his secretary announced through the intercom. "I'll be right there." Alex straightened his tie and picked up a thick folder marked Classified, Galactic Trade Federation. Inside were reports that would sound like science fiction to most people, but were harsh reality for the few who knew the truth. Humanity was being watched. For the past 50 years, representatives from an alliance of alien civilizations had been studying Earth, deciding whether humans were ready to join the galactic community. The reports weren't encouraging. Alex entered the boardroom where 12 other board members waited. At the head of the table sat someone who looked human but wasn't. Commander Zara had been Earth's liaison with the Galactic Trade Federation for 3 years, though only a handful of people knew her true identity. "Good morning, Alex," she said with a slight accent that most people assumed was European. "I trust you've read the latest evaluation reports." Alex opened his folder. The reports painted a grim picture of humanity: wars, poverty, environmental destruction, corruption. The alien observers had focused on humanity's failures, concluding that humans were too primitive and violent for interstellar contact. "I've read them," Alex said, "but I think they're incomplete." Commander Zara raised an eyebrow. "Incomplete how? They focus on our worst examples, our conflicts, our failures, our mistakes, but they ignore what makes us strong." "And what is that?" Alex thought about Lisa, working night shifts to pay for her brother's medical care. He thought about the thousands of similar stories his company's data networks had been quietly documenting. Our capacity for sacrifice, our ability to help strangers without expecting anything in return, our willingness to give up our own dreams so others can survive. The other board members looked uncomfortable. Most of them had spent their careers focused on profit margins and stock prices. Talk of sacrifice and altruism seemed out of place in a corporate boardroom. "Can you prove this?" Commander Zara asked. "Give me 3 months. Let me show you what humanity really looks like when you get past the headlines and government reports." Alex spent the next hour presenting his plan. Kane Industries had surveillance satellites, data collection networks, and monitoring systems originally designed for defense contracts. He wanted to use them to document everyday acts of human kindness and courage. "You want to spy on your own species to find good deeds?" one board member asked. "I want to show the Federation what they're missing when they only look at our failures." "Commander." Zara was quiet for a long time. "The Federation Council is meeting in 6 months to make their final decision about humanity. If your people are rejected, contact will be postponed for at least a century. Then we have 6 months to change their minds." After the meeting, Alex returned to his office and activated his company's global monitoring systems. Cameras, satellites, and data networks began searching for something they had never looked for before: proof that humanity deserved a place among the stars. The first file in his database was already complete. A young waitress in Phoenix who had sacrificed her education to care for her family. A woman who showed kindness to strangers, even when she had every reason to be bitter about her own circumstances. Alex pulled up Lisa's employee records from the diner's payroll system. She had never missed a shift, never been late, never complained about difficult customers. Her manager's notes described her as the kind of employee who makes everyone else want to work harder. He thought about their conversations over grilled cheese and coffee. Lisa had talked about space travel, about hoping that aliens would be friendly, about believing there was good in the universe despite all the evidence to the contrary. What she didn't know was that her hope was about to be tested. The aliens were real, they were watching, and they were not impressed with what they had seen so far. But Alex believed that people like Lisa could change their minds. He believed that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its technology or weapons, but in the quiet courage of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. "I need surveillance teams in all major cities," he told his security chief. "We're looking for heroes." 3 months had passed since the mysterious donation changed Lisa's life. Jake was responding well to his new treatment, and their grandmother's health had improved with the stress of medical bills gone. Lisa had enrolled part-time at Arizona State University, studying aerospace engineering while still working at Danny's Diner 2 nights a week. She chose to keep working because she enjoyed the job, not because she needed the money. The anonymous trust fund covered all of Jake's ongoing care, and there was enough left over for Lisa's education and their basic needs. She still wondered who had helped them, but the hospital refused to give any information about the donor. Couture. A quiet Thursday night, Lisa was studying physics homework at the counter when the familiar bell rang. She looked up to see her mysterious friend walking in, looking more relaxed than she had ever seen him. "The usual corner booth?" she asked with a smile. "Actually, could I sit at the counter tonight? I'd like to talk." Lisa poured his coffee and sat across from him. The diner was empty except for a trucker sleeping in his cab outside. "You look different," she said. "Happy. I've had a good few months. How about you? How's Jake doing?" Lisa's face lit up. "Amazing. The doctors say his condition is improving faster than they expected. And I'm back in school, thanks to whoever paid his medical bills. That must feel good. It feels like a miracle. I keep waiting for someone to call and say it was all a mistake, that we owe the money back." The man sipped his coffee thoughtfully. "What if I told you it wasn't a mistake? What if someone saw how hard you were working and decided you deserved help? I'd say that person was either very rich or very crazy. Probably both." He laughed. "What if they were both?" Lisa studied his face. There was something different about him tonight, like he was carrying a secret he wanted to share. "You know something about this, don't you?" Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression changed. "I'm sorry, I need to take this call. It's important." He stepped outside, and Lisa watched through the window as he paced back and forth, talking urgently into his phone. She couldn't hear the words, but his body language suggested the conversation wasn't going well. What Lisa didn't know was that Alex Kane was talking to Commander Zara from his car in the parking lot. "The Federation Council has moved up their decision date," Zara was saying. "They want to conclude the evaluation next week. That's 3 months early. We're not ready." "I'm sorry, Alex, but there's been pressure from other member worlds. They're concerned about Earth's military development and want a decision now." Alex looked through the diner window at Lisa, bent over her textbook with a pencil in her hand. For 3 months, his teams had been documenting thousands of stories like hers. Teachers spending their own money on school supplies, neighbors helping, elderly people with groceries, strangers stopping to help accident victims, volunteers working at homeless shelters and animal rescues. "How much time do I have?" "The presentation is scheduled for Monday, 4 days. Can you get me in front of the full council?" "I can try, but Alex, you need to understand the pressure they're under. 3 other species have been rejected for membership this year. The council is not in a generous mood." After the call ended, Alex sat in his car for several minutes thinking. He had documented proof of humanity's capacity for good, but would it be enough? The Federation had strict standards for new members. They wanted species that could contribute to galactic peace and prosperity, not cause problems. He walked back into the diner where Lisa was still studying. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Work problems. Nothing I can't handle." He sat back down at the counter. "Lisa, can I ask you something?" "Sure. If you met someone from another planet, another species entirely, what would you want them to know about humans?" Lisa put down her pencil and thought for a moment. "That's a weird question. Humor me. Well, I guess I'd want them to know that we're not perfect. We make mistakes, we fight sometimes, we can be selfish. But we also care about each other. We try to help when we can. We dream about things bigger than ourselves. What if they judged us only by our worst examples, our wars, our pollution, our failures? That wouldn't be fair. You can't judge a whole species by their worst people any more than you can judge them by their best people. You have to look at everyone." Alex nodded slowly. What if the decision they made affected everyone on Earth? What if they could help us solve our biggest problems, but only if they thought we deserved it? Lisa looked at him strangely. Are we still talking hypothetically? What would you say to convince them? Lisa was quiet for a long time. I'd tell them about my brother, about how strangers donated money to help him when we couldn't afford treatment. I'd tell them about my grandmother's neighbor who checks on her every day, about the truck driver who changes flat tires for free when he sees someone stuck on the highway. She gestured around the empty diner. I'd tell them about this place, how people from all walks of life sit at the same tables and treat each other with respect, how a rich businessman can sit next to a homeless person and they're both just customers, looking for a good meal. You think that would be enough? It should be. If they're really advanced, they should understand that every species has good and bad. The question isn't whether we're perfect, the question is whether we're trying to be better. Alex finished his coffee and left a $20 tip on a $6 meal. Thank you, Lisa, for everything. Will I see you again? Alex paused at the jar. Maybe. If things go well this week. He walked out into the night, leaving Lisa with more questions than answers. She had no idea that in 4 days her words would be presented to a council of alien representatives who would decide humanity's future among the stars. All she knew was that her mysterious friend seemed to be carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders, and she hoped whatever he was working on would turn out okay. Monday morning arrived too quickly for Alex Kane. He stood in a conference room that didn't officially exist, located 3 floors below Kane Industries headquarters. Around the oval table sat 12 beings who looked human, but weren't. They represented different worlds in the Galactic Trade Federation, and today they would decide Earth's future. Commander Zara called the meeting to order. We're here to evaluate humanity's application for Federation membership. Alex Kane will present evidence on behalf of his species. Alex activated the room's holographic display system. Images filled the air above the table. Thousands of documented acts of human kindness from the past 3 months. Honored council members, you've seen reports about humanity's conflicts and failures. Today I want to show you what those reports missed. The first image showed a teacher in Detroit buying school supplies with her own money. The second showed neighbors in Florida rescuing pets during a hurricane. The third showed volunteers building houses for homeless families in Oregon. These aren't isolated incidents, Alex continued. In 3 months, my teams documented over 50,000 similar acts across every continent. Humans helping strangers without expecting payment or recognition. Council member Veth, representing a world known for its logical approach to problems, spoke first. Mr. Kane, every species has individuals who perform charitable acts. This doesn't prove your species is ready for galactic contact. You're right. Individual acts of kindness exist everywhere. But look at the scale. Alex showed them statistics. The percentage of humans who donated to charity. The number of people who volunteered their time to help others. The frequency of small daily kindnesses that never made news reports. On my world, said Councilmember Jara, we eliminated poverty and conflict centuries ago through careful genetic and social engineering. Your species still struggles with basic problems we solved long ago. That's exactly my point, Alex replied. You solved your problems through engineering and control. We're solving ours through choice and compassion. He showed them Lisa's story, a young woman who gave up her dreams to care for family members, who worked night shifts to pay medical bills, who treated every customer with respect regardless of their appearance or wealth. This waitress doesn't help others because she's programmed to or because it's legally required. She does it because she chooses to, even when it costs her personally. Council member Kess leaned forward. One individual cannot represent an entire species. She's not alone. Alex displayed thousands of similar stories. Parents working multiple jobs to support their children. People donating organs to strangers. Communities coming together during disasters. The holographic display showed real-time footage from around the world. In Tokyo, office workers were helping elderly people navigate train stations. In London, teenagers were reading to children at hospitals. In São Paulo, families were sharing food with homeless people. Your monitoring systems have been watching us for 50 years, Alex said. But you've been watching the wrong things. You've focused on our governments, our militaries, our corporations. You missed the real story of humanity. Commander Zara spoke up. The Federation has standards, Alex. We can't accept species that might destabilize galactic peace. What's more stabilizing than a species that chooses cooperation over conflict, that values the welfare of others over personal gain? Alex played audio recordings of conversations he had with Lisa at the diner. Her thoughts about alien life, her hope that other species would be friendly, her belief that the universe had room for everyone. She said something that changed my perspective, Alex told the council. She said you can't judge a species by their worst examples any more than you can judge them by their best examples. You have to look at everyone. The council members exchanged glances. This approach was different from previous human presentations, which had focused on technological achievements or military strength. Council member Veth asked, "What makes you think humans would contribute positively to the Federation?" "Because we understand struggle. Because we've learned to find hope in difficult situations. Because we believe in helping others, even when we have problems of our own." Alex showed them footage of the global response to natural disasters. Millions of people donating money, time, and resources to help strangers in other countries. Rescue teams traveling across oceans to search for survivors. Medical volunteers working in dangerous conditions to treat the injured. Every advanced species in the Federation achieved peace and prosperity before joining, said Council Member Jara. Humans are still fighting wars, still dealing with poverty and disease, which is exactly why we understand the value of peace and prosperity. We don't take them for granted because we've had to work for them. The council deliberated for 2 hours while Alex waited in an adjoining room. When they called him back, Commander Zara's expression was unreadable. "The council has reached a decision," she announced. "By a vote of 8-4, humanity has been accepted for provisional membership in the Galactic Trade Federation." Alex felt his knees go weak with relief. "However," Zara continued, "this acceptance comes with conditions. Humanity will be monitored for the next 10 years. Full membership depends on continued evidence of the positive traits you've presented today." That evening, Alex drove to Danny's diner for the last time as a stranger. Lisa was there, studying, between customers as usual. When she saw him, she smiled and poured his coffee without being asked. "You look different," she said, like someone who just solved a really big problem. "I had some help," Alex replied. "Lisa, I need to tell you something. My name is Alex Kane, and I own Kane Industries." Lisa stared at him. "The aerospace company? The one that builds satellites and space equipment?" "The same one. And you're the anonymous donor who paid for Jake's treatment." Lisa's coffee cup slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. "You're kidding." "I'm not. And there's more. Remember when you asked what you'd tell aliens about humanity if you met them?" "Yeah, that weird hypothetical question." Alex smiled. "It wasn't hypothetical. Your words helped convince a council of alien representatives that humans deserve a place in the galactic community." Lisa sat down hard on the stool behind the counter. "Aliens are real? Very real. And thanks partly to you, they've decided we're worth knowing." Alex offered Lisa a job leading the new Department of Interstellar Relations at Kane Industries. Her understanding of human nature and her natural compassion would be valuable as humanity took its first steps into a larger universe. Lisa looked around the diner where she had worked for 2 years, where she had learned to find dignity in service and strength in struggle. "Will I still be able to help people?" "More people than you can imagine," Alex said. "People from worlds you've never dreamed of." Lisa looked up through the diner's windows at the stars she had gazed at since childhood. They no longer seemed distant and cold. They seemed like destinations, like opportunities, like home.